Let's pick a card. Oh my goodness. So today we have Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader was born on March 9th, 1945. He is an American serial killer known as BTK, an abbreviation he gave himself for bind, torture, kill. Between 1974 and 1991, he killed 10 people in Kansas and sent taunting letters to police and newspapers describing the details of his crimes. After a decade-long hiatus, he resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and subsequent guilty plea. He is serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Prospect Township, Butler County, Kansas. So, BTK is very interesting because out of all of the different serial killers out there, BTK is the only one that I've ever spoken with personally. So Dennis is a friend of mine, Ashley Keto, who some of you, if you had a chance to check out the show that I was doing on Clubhouse, we actually did an interview with Ashley, and I met her several years ago, and she is very, very close with Dennis. When all of the things happened with his family and his family disowned him and everything, Ashley kind of stepped up and would go and visit him in prison and everything. And she actually has his will and has to spread his ashes when he passes. So she is very, very close with Dennis, still talks to him every week. You know, since COVID, they have shut down his visits, so he can no longer have, face-to-face visits there at the prison. I know that she is trying to work on getting his visitation returned so that she can go there and at least do video visits with him. She still talks to him on the phone at least every week, I believe, sometimes twice a week, and keeps up to date with him and sees how things are going, and is really kind of a support system for him. So BTK is very interesting. He is someone who, that we look at because this is a crime that happened, at least it started before, some time ago and ended in my lifetime, and, was one of the more recent serial killers that were caught, because he was just caught, in 2005. And of course, through that, there are some really strange circumstances where he asked the police if they could trace him through a floppy disk, and he sends them a floppy disk. Of course, they lied to him and told him that they couldn't, but obviously they could. They figured out the digital fingerprint, and they went to the church that he was working at. I believe it was a Lutheran church, if I remember correctly. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But he was a deacon there, and he was using their computer, and they found him that way. They went and arrested him. Dennis was also like I think he was like a game warden or something. But anyway, he worked for the Parks Department and would go and do things there. He's a really, really interesting character. I met a girl at a convention one time that actually shared property with him, a property line, and she said that he would walk his property every day, walk the perimeter of his property. Of course, he had a shed in the back where he would keep the souvenirs from his victims, where he would keep little pieces, and he would go back there to that shed, and he would pull everything out and look at it. And I guess he wanted to make sure that nobody was looking over the fence and looking into his property. But when BTK would go and kill, again, bind, torture, kill, he would go out there. He would not, I don't want to say stalk, but he would go out there and pick out his victims, and then he would very methodically figure out what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, and then he would break in. He would then tie them up and and torture them and then kill them. He would also, interestingly enough, he would then often put on their clothes. He would tie himself up in his self bondage, and he would, take pictures of himself in their clothes and often wearing a mask. And you can't see it, but up above me right here, there is a replica that, oh gosh, I wish I could remember who made it for me. But anyway, somebody in the true crime community made the mask for me, and I have a replica BTK mask. And so, he would put that mask on, and he had several. That was just one style. I think, if I remember correctly, he had 4 or 5 different masks that he would wear. And so he would do that. And there were times where he would like rent out hotel rooms and stuff, and he would go throw his bondage parties, and he would be by himself, and he would tie himself up and wear the clothes of his victims, and masturbate, and get his rocks off that way. So fascinating guy. BTK is also one of the reasons why we talk about cubing. It was his term for compartmentalizing, right, and disassociation. So that was his term for that, where he could cube different parts of his life, because BTK was married, he had children, right? So he would have his work life, he would have his home life, and then he would have his murder life. What's interesting is when you hear BTK talk, and of course, Catherine Ramsland is the one that did the preeminent book on BTK and interviewed him and got him to talk about a lot of his crimes. If you get a chance, check out that book, because it is fascinating. I've listened to it several times and read it. And she really does a great job of letting BTK speak and letting him explain why he did what he did. And actually, that's one of the questions that I asked Dennis is, was he happy with that? And he was. He was able to say what he felt like he needed to say through that. Talking to Dennis, he's a very interesting character. He is, like many of them, very narcissistic. But, and he also like speaks in code. And it's really interesting. He would send me some things, and he never did send me a letter. Matter of fact, I need to write him again. But he would message me through the app, and we would talk there. And Ashley would have to like translate for me, because he speaks in code. It's just how his mind works. So it's fascinating to talk to him and try to understand, what's going through his mind, and why he does the things that he does, even to this day. So those of you that know, I do some artwork and stuff, and so I have a Serial Killer Last Supper, and Dennis is in the Serial Killer Last Supper. He's right there on the thing. So I actually sent him a copy of that when I sent him my letter, and of course the jail would not let him have that. So I actually sent it to him digitally, and they let him download it and put it on his iPad. So he has a copy of it, and of course, again, being fairly narcissistic, he loved it. And so I talked to him a little bit about, Killer's the card game, which obviously he has a card in it, and he was very, very interested in that. So it's, it's fascinating to be able to talk to somebody that has been on the opposite end of that has gone and committed those crimes. And now he's at a place where they're now trying to pin 2 additional potential murders on him. They have 2 girls that were abducted, that were kidnapped. I can't remember where they're from. But anyway, there's 2 additional ones that they've just went back onto his property. And this is like in the last, month or 2, where they went back onto the property that Dennis owned. It's no longer his, but they got permission to go back there and dig. And they went and they found rope, and they found some different artifacts that lead them to believe that Dennis had something to do with these other 2 kidnappings. So, it's really interesting, because I knew before that Dennis was really excited to get to speak to his daughter again. He hadn't talked to her in like 18 years. And so he was really excited to reconnect with her. And it's a really difficult thing because obviously Dennis is a murderer, right? But he's also still a human being. So, even though he was a shit person and went out there and ruined people's lives, he's still alive and he still wants to have connection with his family. And so I thought it was interesting that he got the opportunity to have that connection, but it seems like his daughter was not really interested in getting to catch up with her dad. She was very much interested in getting him to confess or to set him up to get him to say something about these other two kidnappings that they're trying to pin on him. Now, he's already said that he had nothing to do with it in previous interviews. I don't know how true that is. I've never spoken to him about it, but I think that it is a very precarious time for him. I think it's very difficult because I know that he really wanted connection with his family, and I don't think he's going to get that. At the same time, I don't know that he deserves that, right? So it's very interesting. Often we talk about serial killers that are dead or have been, executed, but this is someone who is very much alive, someone that very much still, you know, has feelings and regret, and I don't know that he regrets anything that he's ever done, but from what I understand, he does struggle with that piece of it, that he had a family and he does not any longer have that. So it's very interesting. It brings up a lot of interesting quandaries about, what we do with people that are in prison, no matter the crimes that they've committed. Do we allow them to have some humanity, or do we take that all away from them? I don't know the answer to that, and I think it's a very, very difficult thing. Because these people that we talk about, specifically in this show, in this 5 Minute Murder, don't deserve any adulation, right? What I do is not glorify. What I do is make aware, right? Make aware that these are real people, that they really did shit in history, and even though it was horrible, they are worth remembering, so that we don't end up in the same place, and we can change the behaviors, and we can get help to the people that need help. So it's fascinating to me to have that and to see that connection. Anyway, I am going way over 5 minutes. So anyway, Mary, you can yell at me. At least I got it done on a Friday. You guys have been getting on me because I've been Saturday and sometimes Sunday, sometimes Monday. But 5 Minute Murder. There you go, Dennis Rader. Let me know in the comments what you think, because I think it's a hot button subject. This guy who committed at least 10 murders, maybe 12 now, maybe more that we don't even know about. What do we do with that? Do we just throw away the key and say, fuck it, they're a piece of shit, they don't deserve anything? Or do we still treat them like human beings, even though they didn't treat the people that they encountered as human beings? They didn't give a shit about their life. So it's a very, very strange thing, in trying to understand that and trying to grapple with that question. People have been grappling with it for years. It's why we have people that are for the death penalty. We have people that are against the death penalty. So it's a very, very challenging subject. But yeah, BTK, Dennis Rader, very, very interesting case. I will talk to you guys soon. It's another 5 Minute Murder.
I said this